Hey there, everyone. This is Wade Franson, and I am so excited to be recording this sneak peek for episode 113, The Search for Truth in Physics with George Musser. I have been anticipating this show for a very long time. Welcome to the studio, George.
I'm just delighted to be here and talk about these big issues with you.
Well, for the guests who don't know you, you were the space science editor of Scientific American in 2004 when I began subscribing to the magazine, and you wrote articles on cosmology, which I began to read at that time. So what were you doing as space editor at that time?
Oh, wow. You picked it up just after things got super interesting in cosmology, the discovery of dark energy, the expanding and accelerating universe, the continuing mysteries over dark matter, which is separate from that, and the discovery of planets outside our solar system that might be Earth-like and therefore might be habitable or inhabited. So it's been an incredible 20 some odd years that you've been reading the magazine and within the sciences of cosmology and physics.
Well, and as you know, I come at this from the perspective of religion. And I actually subscribed to Scientific American because at that time I had resigned from the ministry. I was now doing strategic planning for a company called Countrywide. And in the strategic planning community, they recommended that you read a variety of sources. So I subscribed to Rolling Stone magazine, Scientific American, and a number of other magazines. But it was Scientific American that really constantly captivated and caught my attention and my imagination, even as a religious person. Because today, as a Baha'i, I believe in the essential unity of science and religion. And yet there's a tension. There's a tension between those two. You became contributing editor in 2012. How did your role change when you became contributing editor?
I mean, I love being on the staff at Scientific American. I moved into more of a consulting role so that I could work on my own book projects. So since then, I've come out with 3 books that are meant for the average person talking about issues in physics.
And that's what we're going to get into a little bit, including your article, The Search for Truth in Physics. So what can our guests expect from this dialogue that you and I will hopefully just be beginning, because I hope we'll be able to have you back on the show many times over the next few years.
Oh, I would love that. That would just be amazing because I see this as part of a longer dialogue that will have 1, 2, or more episodes in. So people turn to physics maybe out of interest, or people go into physics as students expecting to understand the nature of physical reality. And physics does push us in that direction. It's come up with some amazing discoveries and realizations. But the more you do it professionally, the more you realize that we're coming up also against some really deep and intractable questions about what is reality? Is there reality? Or maybe is the reality what we had thought of before? And there are some questions that come up, especially in cosmology, that come up in quantum physics, that lead us to question what is the reality? And it certainly doesn't seem to conform to our expectations of what it should be.
When you and I, in the brief conversation we had before this, we're talking about the idea of humility and ego. One has to have a certain amount of confidence to even believe that one can address these questions, but one has to recognize we're very, very small in the sense of this very large universe. And that's something that is it fair to say you wrestle with that a little bit, or how is that relationship on your end?
I mean, it comes out in so many ways, but maybe the one way that comes out is that we try to create theories. We, being the physics community, creates theories of the universe. How do we create them? On what basis do we create them? Whether we create them on our observations that we make. And those observations depend on our being at a point in space wire of the universe. And we have to be conscious and aware of that we may not be seeing the universe, we may be seeing an unrepresentative sample of the universe, and we have to kind of account for that in our physical descriptions. We can't assume that. We open our eyes, we look out, and what we see is what is, and all that is. So maybe the easiest example is we know that our eyes are sensitive only to what we call visible light. We don't see the infrared, the ultraviolet, radio waves, gamma waves, things that are outside the range, but are also forms of light. Hence, we have telescopes that can now probe those areas. So if we look out and only using the visible light, we would have an unrepresentative understanding of the universe. We wouldn't see all these other aspects of it. And that comes out in other domains such as quantum physics, where we see only a sliver. And based on that sliver, have to extrapolate. And we do so, as you rightly pointed out, with humility. We have to have some self-confidence. Otherwise, why try? Why do we have any expectation of success? But we also have to be humble and realize that our knowledge is provisional.
Well, I can't wait to dive deeper into these. And I think that's a great segue. We all have a limited perspective. Yours is unique. And I cannot wait to share more with our audience. So for the audience, this will be episode 113, The Search for Truth in Physics. It will air on August 27th at 8 p.m. Central Time. You're not going to want to miss this show. I can't wait to dive in deeper with George Musser. So be there, and we'll look forward to diving into it then.